husband is leaving me for his best friend. Using friend's throwaway account and on mobile. So pardon my formatting, I may delete this post later to make sure nobody I know finds this. Characters, fake names. Opme, 28F. Sam my husband, 29 meters. L's husband's female best friend, 28F. Rafless husband, 29 meters. My husband has a best friend who he met 10 years ago in uni, and they have been inseparable since. She's really nice and has honestly been a great friend to my husband and me as well. She was in an on-off relationship with her husband for about 9 years until they got married about 2 years ago. Now starting from uni days, Sam fell in love really hard with Liz, but as she was with Raf, so she turned him down, and they continued being friends. But Sam never really got over her completely, and somewhere deep I believe he hoped that she'd leave Raf for him. When I met Sam during our masters, he told me all about her and how she was his first love, the one that got away, etc. We started dating a while later, and I fell absolutely in love with him. I still sometimes felt he wasn't over her, but I assumed I was probably just jealous. Fast forward to 3 years ago, Raf and Liz got engaged, and for 2 whole weeks, Sam was just disinterested in everything. It almost looked like he was in mourning, and that had me really worried and doubting his feelings for me. But a few weeks later he proposed too, and I was overjoyed. Liz told me that he had just been acting that way to throw me off and had told her the plans to propose weeks ago. I said yes, and slowly our relationship started getting heavenly. We were just so damn happy, part of which was due to the fact that Liz and Raf were busy with their life and we were spending all our time together. We got married a year ago. Recently Raf died in a car crash, and understandably Liz was inconsolable. I tried to be there for her, but she has been pushing me away, and I respected her. But the thing is, Sam has been spending all his time with her. I understand how they are very close, and she needs him right now, but it feels like they're pushing me out of their lives. Sam has been acting strange, and it almost feels like he's putting this wall between us and acting like I'm not. Even his wife, he goes to her house every day and spends the entire day there, sometimes even the nights, and only calls me about once a day. When he does come home, he spends most of his time sleeping or catching up on work. We were planning on starting a family and has indefinitely postponed that too, saying he's not ready now. I don't want to sound insensitive, but I feel like he's neglecting me, and it feels like he's going to leave me for her now. I talked to him about this, and he blew up and called me insensitive and jealous for questioning his loyalties. He said that he loves her platonically, and seeing her like this breaks his heart, and he'd do anything to make her feel better. He cried in front of me saying I was making this even more difficult, and he wouldn't even think about making a move on her, as Raf was his friend too. He left saying that he's reconsidering our marriage, as I'm not the person he married. He hasn't come back since yesterday and is staying at a hotel. I feel really bad about all this, but I still can't shake these feelings off. What is the right thing to do now? Edit. I feel like I have not worded this very well, as I was high on emotions. Sam has never before this made me feel like second option during our time together, and we have been very happy together. Liz is a common sight, and we became good friends when I started dating Sam, and has always tried to include me in their best friend activities and never made me feel uncomfortable with their behavior. I truly love them both and trust them. But this sudden change is making me a bit uncomfortable. He spent 2 nights at her place. One was the day Raf died, and another a week later. Coming to house pushing me out. I went over to her place a few times, but she was curled up in her room and won't talk to me or anyone else. It seems like only Sam can make her talk or eat right now. Also, it's been only 3 weeks since Raf died, so I now feel like I may be overreacting due to the stress of everything that's happening. Ignoring everything else, you know what sticks out to me? You brought up your valid feelings, and not only did he yell at you for it but threatened divorce. What happened to having honest and open communication? Question mark? Question mark? You have right to feel the way you do, even if he doesn't understand it. He should have validated how you felt and reinforced how much he loves you. Tried to find a way to help you, even if it was just calling more. It seems like he is pulling back and trying to find a reason to validate leaving you, even if that means blowing up on you for having normal feelings and emotions. You've been supportive. You/Throra 1049. God forbid you request some sort of reafferent after 3 weeks. I would have said something on day 3 because Liz is an adult. She can get professional help. She doesn't have to use your husband as a crutch and destroy your relationship. I'm gonna type this here because I want Op to see this. Regardless of whether you are right or not, you shouldn't take him claiming to reconsider his marriage, especially right after Liz was widowed, too lightly. Let's say he doesn't make a move on Liz. I personally would never be able to shake my doubts on our marriage and would constantly mistrust him. Let him go. You do not want to engage further with him, and please do not have kids. Also, Liz will always be in the picture and their history will never cease to exist. What are the chances that he claims he is reconsidering the marriage right after Liz is widowed? If someone told me they had doubts on our marriage, 1. I will never be able to get over it. 2. He will never get over it. Sorry, but you were always the second choice. He married you as a response to Liz's engagement. Even if Hez not physically cheating on you now, Hez emotionally cheating and mistreating you. I think it's time to either go to marriage counseling or contact a lawyer and end this relationship. You deserve to be summoned. #1. Definitely, his behavior is just not acceptable. He is your husband and he is not acting like that at all. I talked to him about this and he blew up and called me insensitive and jealous for questioning his loyalties. He said that he loves her platonically and seeing her like this breaks his heart and he'd do anything to make her feel better. He cried in front of me saying I was making this even more difficult and he wouldn't even think about making a move on her as Raf was his friend too. He left saying that Hez reconsidering our marriage as him not the person he married. See, this entire situation is weird, but this thing you wrote, you realize that he's about to try and take an out, using you as the excuse for it? If he is grieving Raf as well, this situation is understandable. But what it really looks like is he's using a widow's grief to try and make his move. He can be glad that Liz is available and sad that Raf is dead. At the same time, is he? Honestly, you pointed out that he said to you that you aren't the person he married. What part of him that you're seeing right now is the person you married? That's what I thought too. At the end of the argument, he says Hez reconsidering marriage for her concerns. Instead of reassuring her, Hez threatening leaving her. It definitely feels like he was using her concern against her so he can leave her. This is it. He is looking for an excuse to get rid of Op so he can be available too. And her accusing him when he's innocent lets him do that and pretend Op's the bad guy. I think you should reconsider your relationship with him altogether. He told you that she was the one that got away before you were even married, implying that he still had feelings for her. He might not decide to make a move because he was friends with Raf, but it sounds to me like you and your feelings will always be placed behind this. You can either accept this and continue on with the relationship or you can decide it's not acceptable and leave him. My husband has a best female friend and I cannot imagine, under any circumstance, him ever staying at her house and not talking to me, but once a day while he was there. Not appropriate under any circumstance. And my husband never even had feelings for or dated his friend. I don't want to come across as insensitive, but you're always going to be second best to Liz. Imho. It sounds like he never got over Liz after asking her out the first time. From the start of your relationship, it sounds like he was using you in hopes that he would be able to move in from her. But once Raf had tragically passed, something clicked and brought up his emotions that has been burying. And his mind is on Liz again. Hez disrespecting your marriage. And whether or not Hez physically cheating, Hez definitely emotionally cheating. He left saying that Hez reconsidering our marriage as him not the person he married. Hez gaslighting you. I think you should reconsider your relationship with this guy. It's one thing to be there for a friend who just suffered a tragic loss, but it's another to completely disregard and practically throw away your own marriage and drop everything to be with her for hours on end. I'm sorry you're going through this, Opus. Sorry Op, but you are correct. He has checked out and is blame shifting to free himself. They will be a write-em shortly. Lawyer up because you know divorce is coming. My ex had a friend like this. They ended up getting married after her husband died. I know you two are married and it's only been a few weeks since your friend's death. But he should definitely not be staying the night and making you feel bad that you're worried. I'm sure you're hurting. to. Has overstepping his boundaries when it comes to taking care of her. It's a bit much. I wish he could see that. I hope things get better for you and that it works out for you too. These things are scary and it's hard to know how to feel. Best of luck. I would not be comfortable with this at all, especially since she was extremely friendly with you prior to the car accident. It's also alarming that your husband doesn't want to plan for a family now that his old love is available again. I would be extremely suspicious. Do you want to live the rest of the days being the third wheel in your marriage? Or wait until he gives you the divorce papers? There's a huge difference between supporting a friend, where are her other friends / family BTW, in grief, and it's another to be over there 4 days and sleeping over there? Yeah, hell no. I'm sorry for the sudden loss of a friend, and I'm sorry that any grief you may be feeling is compounded by the worry that your husband still has feelings for the one that got away. From an outsider's perspective, going by what you've written here, it does seem like your husband has many complicated feelings about his best friend, and those feelings may extend to nursing a hope that one day they will be together again. That said, feelings shift over time, and maybe at the beginning of your relationship he did view listen that way, but he did marry you. Has he ever given you the feeling that you are his second choice? How involved in her life is he? What kind of things do they do together as best friends? Have you ever felt uncomfortable with boundaries being crossed within their friendship? Have you ever felt like he prioritized his relationship with Liz over your marriage? This is a very tragic and very emotional event. I can understand how he wants to be there for his best friend, but I also think there is a difference between being a supportive best friend and, essentially, hitting pause on your marriage to do that, and your husband telling you that you don't get to have any feelings about that. How long will he be visiting her every day? Sleeping at her place last? Grief can take years to process. Is he expecting you to be okay with this? If this continues indefinitely, will he drop everything to be with her as long as she needs him? What if you need him too? Who will he choose? Even if your husband does only love Liz as a friend, does it even matter if he chooses to prioritize that relationship for as long as she needs him? If children are off the table indefinitely, that is still a problem. I can't tell you what the right thing to do, but your husband says he is rethinking your marriage, and maybe you take some time to think as well. Unfortunately, most people endure more than one tragic event in their lifetime. What happens if something happens in Liz's life a few years down the road and he decides to check out on your marriage again, but this time you have children? Something to think about. I wish you the best, Opus. I hope Op reads your comment. An overwhelming amount of people here are jumping to conclusions, whereas we actually only know a fraction of what seems like a pretty complex situation. I haven't had a friend grieving over the loss of someone, but maybe reminiscing about old times and catching up on one another in a way you couldn't for a long time, because life after uni changes in many ways. If that's what it takes, fine. I would definitely try to be better at communicating it, let alone neglecting my wife like that. I mean, adding on to that, losing an actual friend as well. There is so little advice internet strangers could give right now, imho. People react differently to extreme situations. You understand that he knows it's his chance now and is preparing for it, laying down the foundation and cementing his chances so no other man can come in her life and scoop her away again. He is guarding her so she doesn't get close to anyone else and stays with him. I wouldn't be shocked if they are already having sex. Grief sex exists. Get out of the relationship, but not before you hear her side. He sounds pathetic and psycho tbh. Who TF marries someone and acts like this for 10 years? The moment he died, this pathetic prick is already trying to replace him. If she is so grief stricken, wouldn't it make more sense that she stay at your apartment? It makes no sense that he is over there every day. He's brushing you off and insisting it's a you problem when it clearly is not. How can she blow you off but monopolize all his time? This whole situation is so off. I would start doing some deep thinking about what you want to do here. Do you just want to pull the trigger on a divorce, or offer the two-card option to your husband? Couples counseling or divorce lawyer? I would be most upset that he has ignored you, his wife, over his friend. I would understand checking in with her periodically, but he has pretty much moved in with her. You get the scraps. So start planning for the breakup so that you can make a calm, clear-headed, smooth transition to your new life. You deserve someone that puts you first. I agree. Op should invite her over to stay. It might be easier for her to grieve in a place that isn't the place she shared with her husband. And then Op can watch how they interact with each other. Op should put out the invitation and gauge their response. Your husband is extremely selfish. Do not have children with this man. I would leave him before he blames it all on you and leaves you. He'll blame it all on you anyway. F him. Paulus is going to be stuck with his douchy self now. Take a breath. Weirdly, this dynamic was a thing after 9/11. Firefighters left their wife for their buddies' widows. Link. snooze.com/news/fireman divorce 4-9-11-widows/ You weren't crazy for being worried. I would say that now would be a great time for some couples therapy. Frame it as, I'm worried about you. Supporting a grieving person is hard, and you can't pour from an empty cup. I'll go with you, so I can best know how to support you. By keeping tuned in and being there for him, you can help together, rather than alienating him. The big problem here is that you are his second choice. He has not broken up with you yet because he wants to keep you around in case he can't leverage this situation to be with Liz. You are worth more than this. You deserve and can find better. I know this is painful. I'm so sorry you are experiencing this. Nothing about what's happening is your fault. He had no reason to get overly defensive like that and say he's going to end the marriage because he's making you uncomfortable. That's a red flag. I really hope you find someone better and they treat you the way you deserve to be treated. This whole situation seems so intense and complicated, but I understand your fear. I think that Les is definitely in need of some comforting. But him spending almost all of his free time with her and going over to her house when he could also bring her over to yours house sounds sketchy. Then the proverbial nail on the coffin of suspicion. Him blowing up and being so defensive about it isn't good. So many red flags. I would do your best to keep calm, but prepare for the potential of divorce. Get your life in order. It might not need to happen, and he might be able to calm down and come to his senses. But you need to prepare for the inevitability that he may not. I would also consider showing him this post in the comments if it gains some traction and people agree that he's being weird and shifty. Best of luck to you, and I hope that the situation improves. If she showed him this post, he would just freak out and consider it a betrayal. Do not show him this post. It is hard, but ask him what would he do if the roles were reversed. If you spend the whole day in a male BFF house to comfort him and completely ignoring him! Ask him, will he accept it? I am sorry Op, I don't want to say this, but you are just an option to him to ease his loneliness. He has absolutely no right to say those things to you after abandoning you to console his friend. He's spending his days and nights there, and you hear from him once/day? ? He's lost his freaking mind to blow up at you for feeling the way you do. Doesn't she have other friends, family members, and her husband's family members to help her through this time? He obviously never got over her, and he finally sees his chance, so he's pushing you so that you'll make the decision for him! What did Chris Rock say about men with female best friends? He called them dicks of glass. They are only friends as long as she is being satisfied somewhere else. That person is out of the picture, she breaks the glass, and he lives a fantasy. Sam and Liz won't work for the same reason you and Sam didn't work. You can only settle for your second choice for so long. She didn't choose Ralph because she thought he was equal to Sam. She knew he was better than Sam. What happens when she meets someone equal to Ralph? Sam will be sitting where you are now. Op, your story is sad, but it will be the best thing that happens to you in life. You are nobody's second choice. You can be someone's moon and stars. Why settle to be someone's telescope they use until they reach their moon and stars? Good luck. So he would do anything to make her feel better, including his platonic friendship with her above and beyond his vow to love and cherish his wife. You are hurting because of his actions and are swallowing your pride to help him, yet he is not reciprocating your efforts to make him happy. What are you getting out of this? Imagine a friend that you deeply cared for telling you about this situation with her husband and what advice you would give her. Heck, imagine any member of your family going through this and what you would advise them to do. Would you tell them to do nothing? Shut up and deal with it? You need to remember that your happiness is important too, and whether you're okay with your husband selfishly putting the woman he wants to duck above your health. Your mental health is important and stress is just going to keep affecting you if this is allowed to continue. She doesn't need your husband to support her as if she is married to him, because she isn't. She is not his wife. You are. There should be no reason for him to be playing husband with her when she certainly can find support elsewhere. Sorry, I think something has already happened between them. He went from denying it and accusing you of questioning his loyalty to telling you he's reconsidering the marriage. I'm sorry if I'm right. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.